Do you want to bust your sales quota? Do you want to join the ranks of top 1% sellers? The Top 1% Sellers podcast gives you the insights and the tools to help you achieve your sales greatness. The podcast features sales and services professionals, leaders, and experts to give you the edge you're looking for. Here's your host, Ash Sadiq.
Welcome to the Top 1% Sellers podcast. I'm very excited because you'll be listening into the conversation I had recently with Keith Rosen. He is the global authority on sales and coaching, an award-winning author, and a leadership transformation specialist. Keith runs his own company called Coachquest and has an amazing team that delivers a number of services for sales organizations around the world. And his company has been named one of the best sales training and coaching companies worldwide. You want to check out Keith, his team, and Coachquest at coachquest.com. You will be listening in to this portion of the interview, and then again, if you subscribe to our podcast, you'll see the other parts of this webinar interview. And I want to make sure that if you haven't been yet to the Top 1% Sellers Academy.com site, you want to go there. It's a membership website for sales professionals who really want to take their own professional development in their own hands. You can go there, you can sign up, you can become a member and access a lot more amazing content. You'll also see some interviews I've conducted with some Hall of Fame Top 1% sellers. You'll see a number of sales coaches that you can also ask to work with on a one-on-one basis, and then an amazing listing of all the certification modules that support the Top 1% Sellers Blueprint. This will be how you get yourself on the path of becoming a Top 1% seller. Win big, win large, and really close these deals much sooner at a larger wallet share as well. Wish you all the success. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Keith, and then make sure that you also listen into the other parts of that webinar as well here on this particular podcast. Once you subscribe, and make sure also you share with your contacts on social media. We appreciate these shares. We want to make sure that every seller out there gets the kind of content that we are publishing, and also we would love to get your feedback as well. Thanks a lot for listening.
And that's a fantastic segue for us, Keith, because what I'd love to do in our next portion here is to really unpack the coaching conversation for managers who may still think, you know what, it's much easier for me to just tell them what to do, or easier for me to solve the problem for them. And I'd love for them kind of listening into you. And I know there are some videos of you actually really demonstrating how that happens, and I would love for people to go on YouTube and watch some of those examples, because I think that's phenomenal that you've done some of these interviews. These are live coaching interviews, and I have an observation we'll share with the audience, but I'd like you to first to kind of take them through. Here's, if you were to sit with me, here's what I would advise you, the mindset walking into that coaching conversation, and then how do you manage it? And what do you resist? There are some things that a manager needs to resist, and I would love for you to tell them.
Okay, so you just triple dipped on me there, Ash. There's three awesome questions. Yeah. So if I get a senior moment because I'm getting old, just remind me if I forget to answer it, okay?
Absolutely.
So let's start off with the first one, the coaching conversation.
Yes.
And so we'll talk strategy, and then we'll talk inner game, because I think that's what you asked.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
So strategy-wise, there's a few things that need to happen. And again, I wish we had 4 hours for this, but at a very high level view, people need a coaching framework. Now, I've created a framework called the LEADS Coaching Framework, LEADS. It's in my book, Coaching Salespeople into Sales Champions. The revised version is going to be in my next book, but it's a framework. It gives people the structure and the questions to help navigate a coaching conversation.
Yes.
So there's the framework, and that framework has been adopted. I was just talking to my chief client officer, and he was looking at our stats, and he was saying, Keith, I think maybe like 25 to 3,000 Fortune 5,000 companies are using your framework.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Wait till they see the new one.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so what that does is it doesn't allow the manager to go all over the place. So managers tell me, Keith, your framework makes sense. It's logical. First I need to learn what's going on. What's their intention? Then I need to enroll them. Are they open to being coached?
Yes.
Then I need to assess. So what's going on? What are the facts? Because again, if managers don't do this, they're assuming. So you're either assessing by asking questions or you're making some wicked costly assumptions.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So LEA, assess. D, discuss. D is about getting to the why. So A is about what's going on.
Yeah.
D is about why is this happening? What's the root cause?
Yeah.
And the last part is support. And support, I always apologize to managers. The S doesn't stand for giving a solution.
Right.
It stands for support. And support is about turning to that person and pulling out the solution from them rather than telling them what to do.
Yes.
Make it sound as simple as, so Ash, what's your opinion on how to move forward here?
Right.
And then it's from there, hey, okay, so what are your action steps? When should we reconnect to discuss how that turned out? How can I be a better coach for you next time? So those last few questions, again, builds that momentum to the next coaching session, builds the accountability of what the salesperson's willing to commit to, and also allows me to take the pulse of my coaching because everyone's an individual and everyone wants to be coached a little differently.
Exactly.
So that framework really helps managers grasp on to the fundamentals of coaching, and then ultimately they could build on it. So a quick analogy is, it doesn't matter what sport you play. So take soccer. The greatest athletes in the world, if they're soccer players, every soccer player first learns the fundamentals.
Yes.
The baseline, best practices.
Yeah.
But from there, as they grow as a player, they develop their own style.
Yes, that's true.
What I tell managers is, listen, this is the baseline. You need this. These are the best practices. From here, you're going to start making a shift from coaching from your head because it's new,
Right.
to shifting to coaching from your heart. And heart-centered coaching is the most powerful coaching you can do because now it's part of your DNA. It's just who you are and how you show up.
Absolutely. And how do you, again, kind of going back to how we started the conversation, this whole idea about coaching in their own image, I think, and to your point, assumptions is a big topic you talk about. How do they manage against both of those items? I think is a big part of what you preach.
It's assumptions is one of my favorite topics because people don't realize how many hundreds of assumptions they're making every single day.
Yes.
So I'll give you a quick example. Working with one client in particular, I'm thinking about. He told me during my 2-day leadership program, he said, Keith, and pretty much is the same comment to managers. I can't even ask the question, how many of you do observation? Because when I ask that question, everyone goes like this. So I have to change the question to, does everyone agree they could be doing more observation? And of course, then every hand goes up.
Everybody is the hand, yeah.
So I remember this one manager, he said, Keith, I went out, I observed my direct report, and if I was to be honest, I haven't done it before. He's been on my team for 3 years. Hasn't been the greatest performer, which is why I wanted to go out and see how he's working with customers and how he's selling and positioning himself. So I go out there and I tried to do my best not to jump in. And we leave the meeting and I turned to him and I said, now I understand why you're not going to hit your numbers this quarter.
Interesting.
So number one, you think the salesperson's ever going to go ride with their manager again or go on a sales call with them? No, the manager just made them wrong.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about this is it's not the salesperson's fault. It's the manager's fault.
Yeah, you said for 3 years. Yeah.
I mean, it always blows my mind when I'm sitting with managers and I say, who is 100% accountable for the success and failure of your team? And managers will say, well, Keith, it's not 100%. It's kind of like 50-50 or 60-40 or no, it's 100%. Yeah. You are 100% accountable for the success and failure of your team. Yeah. So as a manager, I now I do understand because that is the fundamental principle, but it's always amazing to me how managers would share with me, I'm so frustrated with this one person on my team. Yes. They're just not getting it. They're not doing it. They're not engaging in the activity. and it's making me crazy. So we have these conversations and it just gets heated and it gets into an argument and nothing gets done. And the manager's getting mad at their salesperson.
Yeah.
And I stopped the manager and said, well, wait a second.
Yeah.
Why do you think that salesperson is in the position they are in the first place?
Correct. Yeah.
Look in the mirror.
Yeah. Abrogation of duty.
And the manager's like, well, I guess if I observe them more consistently, coach them more effectively, spend more time with them, I would be able to uncover the gaps in the developmental opportunities, which then I could support them so that I'm not shocked when I go out there and realize, oh my God, they don't even know how to sell.
Yes.
Manager's fault. But that's good news because it's in their power to change it.
Absolutely. And let's kind of turn it around slightly and empathize with that manager, and maybe then give them some tips on because coaching, it takes a lot of energy, to your point, right? There are a lot of systematic steps they need to take. The observation. Initially.
Yeah. To your point you said before, Ash, it's sort of like if you're right-handed,
yes,
I'm tying your right hand behind your back and forcing you to write left-handed.
Right.
It's going to feel really uncomfortable for a while.
Yes.
Until it becomes part of you.
Exactly. So I think this is terrific. And what we'll do in the next section is we'll actually talk a bit more about how you work with clients. So let's definitely kind of jump into sort of the last portion of our conversation today. It's been amazing, Keith. Thank you for being here. And for everybody watching, we're talking with Keith Rosen, an expert on sales coaching. And Keith, I'd love for us to tell the audience about Coachquest. I know there's a book coming with the same title. What's the inspiration behind Coachquest and the new point of view you have for people who are coaching their sales teams?
Thanks. Oh, great. And I hope did we answer those other 3 questions you hit me? I think there was an inner game that we talked about.
Yes.
Remind me to talk about detaching from the outcome.
Yes.
Because I think you asked me, what does a manager need to prepare in their mindset as well? So if you could just remember that, Ash, because I might have a senior moment and forget.
Exactly, sure.
But in your last question, can you just ask me that in a different way again?
Oh, sure. I mean, the point of view you have in Coachquest, I definitely see that there's an evolution, even from the time you spoke at Salesforce and a number of other your conversation. I think now there's a conscious decision in your mind around Coachquest and even the whole sales approach, which I'd love to unveil to people because it's very intriguing to me.
Perfect. Thank you, Ash. Having been doing this for 30 years now and actually creating the niche of executive sales coaching and leadership coach development.
Yes.
And we'll talk about the seller coach in a few minutes. Having done this for 30 years and working, my marketing manager, this was a conversation we had a couple of years ago, he said, Keith, you're continually creating new content. The company's continually evolving. It's like, what's next? And I said to him, it's my continued quest. And I stopped and I went into my memory bank and I said, wait a second.
Yeah.
I think I own a domain with that name in it. Let me go back. Of the 1,000 domains I own, don't get me started. It's a problem for me. Okay. And I went back and I think it was over 10 years ago.
Yes.
I reserved Coachquest.com.
Yes.
And I go back and I look at this and I said, this is how we're rebranding Profit Builders. Coachquest. And it's the evolution of my company because we are not a training company. As I said earlier, we're a transformation company. Yeah. We transform companies. We transform organizations. We transform cultures. And if I could just give a quick distinction of why I use that word transform.
Yes.
It's the difference between changing and transforming. When people change, they're just changing what they do. If you look this up, this is actually the definition. Yeah. Change is changing what you do. Yeah. If you look up the word transform, you're changing what you do, but you're also changing who you are and how you think.
The whole being.
And that whole holistic being, that whole process of transformation is what creates, the next generation of, champions.
Absolutely. And I think
that's really been the motivation for this book. And for me, it's this amazing quest and journey that I've been on that I invite everyone to come along with me. If you have a quest, a desire to better your best, to develop your team to be the greatest leader or sales leader you can be, that's your quest.
Yes.
And it happens through coaching. So it was just a perfect combination.
Absolutely.
And we've launched it this year. So really excited about it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Top 1% Sellers podcast. Give us your suggestions and guest recommendations by emailing us at ash@connectwithash.com. Thank you also for sharing this podcast with your colleagues and social media contacts. To connect with us on LinkedIn, please send a connect request to ash@connectwithash.com. See you at our next episode. Thanks for tuning in.